Consider the escalation thesis. The escalation thesis is the claim that whenever you've got a war, each side has to match and exceed the ruthlessness of the other side. One side sends in drones, the other side has to send in drones and then add to it. One side bombs a civilian city, the other side has to bomb the civilian city and then some. And then the original side sees the bombing and then some, and then they match and exceed that. And so whenever you've got a war, according to the escalation thesis, this process just keeps going, and it leads to more and more bloodshed with no limits. So Walzer notes that a lot of figures find this attractive, some figures find the escalation thesis attractive, and he says, yeah, war can work that way sometimes. But it doesn't have to work that way, and it doesn't always work that way. If you look at the real world, if you look at actual wars, sometimes it happens that way and sometimes it doesn't. He's skeptical of the idea that there's some abstract law of nature or some abstract force like the laws of physics or like the laws of math, like 2 + 2 = 4 or something. He's skeptical of the idea that there's some law like that that ensures that war is going to happen in this way. He says, look, we're humans, we're complicated, we can make free choices, we can decide how to respond to threats in different ways, we can reason about what the best way to do it is, and we don't have to escalate in this way, and we don't always escalate in this way. Sometimes you see an escalation and you think the best thing to do is to make a precise, exact attack in a precise, exact spot. You don't have to add more bloodshed. That might not be the most effective way to win a war. So in the real world, the pressure to escalate comes in degrees and it comes in variations. In some cases, there's more pressure. You think, I really got to step up. I've really got to match and exceed the ruthlessness and the methods of the other side in order to win. In other cases, there's less. And whatever the pressures are, there's still human choice, human freedom, according to Walzer, about how to respond to the pressures. Some wars stay at similar levels of violence and don't escalate. And a single, simple, abstract law like war always escalates can't give us the full picture about how this works. And so in this discussion, Walzer is motivating freedom and our freedom to choose about how to respond to different threats. And he's motivating the idea that different threats might motivate us to respond in different ways. And we don't always rationally need to respond by exceeding the ruthlessness of our opponent. He also talks about this idea that sometimes we get more information if we describe something in a particular way. We talk about the specifics of it rather than talk about the abstract. Talk about it in an abstract way. So think about hell. Here's one way to talk about hell. It contains infinite suffering. And that's a useful way to talk about hell, Walzer says. Because, yeah, I guess it does contain infinite suffering. But it's not completely informative. You've got to talk about, well, what makes it so bad? If I'm in hell, am I getting stabbed by a knife? Am I getting burned alive? Do I just have bad emotions? What are the particular things that make hell so bad? And so to get the full picture, a simple abstract statement, infinite suffering, isn't going to be as useful in some contexts as a particular statement. And similarly in war, Walzer thinks, you can't just have some abstract law without talking about the details. You've got to talk about particular acts of force. Did they send in drones? Did they bomb? Did they torture to get information? What are the particular acts of force? What are the particular escalations? All of that's needed to understand how war works, and there's not some simple law that describes it.